Today, we are looking at a piece of history, and I'm not kidding. So buckle up and get ready for the Danelectro Nichols 1966 Fuzz. This is not just another Fuzz clone. It was designed in 1966, and legend has it that everyone fell in love with the raw, untamed sound it produced. In order to fully understand this pedal, we've got to look back in time a little bit. So in 1966, when he was just a teenager, a young man called Steve Ridinger designed his first pedal that essentially was a mix between a fuzz pedal and a distortion. Its architecture is unique and unlike any other pedal, and it's not a clone of anything, as we mentioned. It's a completely original design. It sits somewhere between a fuzz and a drive pedal, so let's break it down. It has pretty classic controls. You will find there's a fuzz dial, there's a drive dial, there's a tone, and there's a volume. Those were the original controls. However, what they did now, just to make it even cooler, is they've added a switch, which goes from the stock, which is the original sound, the original design, to a mid-cut, which makes it even nastier and hits you in the stomach even more. The pedal is really solid. It's very nicely aged. It has a no-click button, which I love. It's really cool. You don't hear that annoying noise when you're recording. And at the back, very simple. Power in and out. That's it. As with all Danelectro pedals, the graphics are really cool. Really vintage looking, but mainly it's a solid piece of gear that you can put on your pedal board. It's not going to go anywhere. It's really well made. The construction is fantastic, top notch. Details, little details like the screws being flush, everything is really well thought out. Throughout this video, you've been listening to this pedal in the mix on various songs that I wrote specifically with this pedal in mind. But now, enough talk, let's plug in and listen to some isolated sounds and see what it can do. Okay, so I am plugged in. Let's just talk about my signal here. Guitar straight into the Nichols 1966 pedal. From there, I'm going to the front of the Amp 1 by Blue Guitar, and then out of there, I'm going into my audio interface. Really nice and simple. I have some IRs from Celestion running in my DAW, and that's it. There's no EQ, nothing. I only have a little bit of reverb going on the Blue Guitar amp. So this is my bass tone. As you can see, it's a clean but not too clean tone, which hopefully fits in really well with the pedal. So first thing we're going to do is put the fuzz down and the drive down, tone in the middle, and volume in the middle. And let's put it on the stock setting. Let's see what happens. What I really love about that sound is that it is really delivering on that premise that it's almost a bit between a fuzz and a drive, because it fattens the original sound up, but also adds those harmonics. It also adds that little bit of fuzziness to the sound. And I find it the best of both worlds. Now let's turn that fuzz up a little bit, shall we? It really maintains that clarity, even with high levels of fuzz. Okay, let's put the drive up a little bit. Volume down. I love that sound. Let's do something different now. Let's move on to let's put the fuzz down a little bit so we can hear it better. And the drive will keep the same. And let's put the mid cut on. Off. On. What's really cool about the mid cut is it just gives you a different perspective on things. It scoops out those mids, but kind of keeps the same vibe, just makes it slightly different, which is a awesome thing to have. Finally, let's just go full blast on the mid cut just to see what that sounds like. Woo! All right, guys, let's get down to it. Time for my honest opinion. I have a really good relationship with Danelectros. I love Danelectro guitars, pedals. I have a very good relationship with JHS, which is the distributor in the UK, and I am a JHS artist. But I bought this pedal with my own money because I was really looking forward to playing it ever since NAMM 24, where it was presented. So this is a brand new pedal which recently, just in the past few days, got to the UK. Now, you know that I absolutely love fuzz pedals. I have an obsession with fuzz pedals. I have way too many fuzz pedals. But I wanted this because reading about the history of this pedal really made me want to see what one of the original designs was back from the 60s and whether it was actually that kind of sound that in my head I associate with early fuzz sounds. Now, I can tell you the Nichols 1966 absolutely nails the 60s rock blues sound. No question about it. This review could end here because that's the bottom line. However, I'm not going to stop. Let's, as usual, go through kind of the pros and cons, if there are any, of this pedal. So first of all, in the pros, as I said, it's as simple as the sound. It's a pure, unadulterated fuzz pedal. The harmonics on the higher strings and the higher notes just sing. It cuts through the mix really well, and it's everything that in many ways is the biggest kind of shortfall of a lot of fuzz pedals. Most fuzz pedals today that you will find on the market, good quality ones, sound fantastic when you play those dirty riffs, those kind of stoner rock riffs in the low strings. But when you get to the highs, I personally have always had a problem with them. They cut out, they just sound too brittle, they don't sound great. This fixes it completely. It fixes that issue, and possibly it's the fact that it's designed as a hybrid fuzz, maybe between a fuzz and a drive. I don't know, whatever the genius magic that is inside of here, it just makes those high notes, those solos just ring out, and it actually rings out true. So it doesn't cover up the sound of your guitar, whatever amp you're going through. It complements it. And that for me is the biggest pro. The second really positive thing about this pedal, which again is completely different to all the fuzz pedals I've ever tried, is simply the fact that, dare I say it, this could be a almost always on pedal. You could actually use it in so many ways. It can be a overdrive, it can be a fuzz. It has that kind of versatility to use it in so many different ways. And hopefully you heard it throughout the songs and the sound demos that I did. Depending on how you set it up, depending on how you set up especially the fuzz and the drive, they interact so organically with each other that you can use it as a kind of almost amp-like distortion. You can use it just to fatten your sound up a little bit, or if you drive the fuzz up, it gives you that real warm but distinct sound. Finally, just to add that versatility, I also find that the inclusion of the switch from the stop to the mid-cut setting is a fantastic, fantastic addition. Again, by experimenting with the switch and the fuzz and the drive, and also the tone in this case, you can achieve a number of different sounds, from the really kind of psychedelic wild sounds to more subtle, slightly driven, fuzzy tones, but everything remains really, really clear, really distinct. All the notes can be heard, and the switch just helps you EQ and gives it a different character when you need it. Now, let's move on to the cons. If there are any, are there? Maybe we shouldn't call them cons. Maybe we should just call them things to consider, because the whole point of this channel is just for me to try out new stuff, and help you guys make informed decisions when spending your really hard-earned cash on these cool pedals, amps, guitars, whatever it is. So the first thing to consider, but I think it's worth reiterating it, and it's written on the box, this is a vintage pedal, essentially, and vintage in the sound. So if you are after a modern sounding, high gain, tight pedal, this isn't for you, because it's not that. It doesn't want to be that, and it's important for you guys to know that this does those sounds, but it does get really woolly if you crank everything up, because that's just how they were. That's almost the beauty of those pedals. You kind of lose control of it. So it may not be appropriate for certain styles of music. Another thing just to consider if you're looking at this pedal, and again, it's not a negative in my eyes, but you know, some of you may find it that way, is that you actually do need to dial this in. And because it lets you experiment in different ways with the fuzz, the tone, and the drive settings, you have to kind of dial it in to see where you like it most, or what's most appropriate for whatever song you're doing, or whatever sounds good to your ears. So it's not really just a plug and play pedal. It does sound great if you put everything at 12 o'clock, but you'd be missing out on a lot. So what I'm trying to say really is that the best sound out of this pedal comes when you actually experiment with it and check out the different settings. So if that's not something that you're into, you just want to have one fuzz sound, maybe again, this is something to bear in mind. Bottom line, guys, if you crave that raw 60s sound, if that's kind of your holy grail sound, then this is the best pedal I've ever tried. The Nichols 1966 by Danelectro delivers that sound to the T. It is not a recreation. It's not a clone. It is the real thing. And the man who invented it ensured that was the case. So I really think that this is as close as you're going to get to a time capsule. I really think this is as close as you're going to get to a piece of history. It's unique, it has character, and that we should all be thankful for. I haven't mentioned the price yet. This comes in at about just under $200. So in the standard price range you'd expect for a fuzz pedal that is not a inexpensive one. Did it blow my mind? Yes, absolutely. Is this my new favorite fuzz pedal? Yes, absolutely. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I bought this pedal with my own money, and honestly, it's the best purchase I've done in a very, very long time. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like this sound? Is that the kind of 60s sound that you like? Let me know as usual. I'd love to have a chat with you guys about what fuzz kind of sound you like. Keep liking, subscribing, do whatever you want. It doesn't cost anything, and it just keeps those evil robots happy. I will put all the links to this pedal down below. And remember, just be good to each other, keep playing guitar, have fun, and chase that tone. See you later, guys.